Which brings us to John Denniston. John started his career as a corporate lawyer in Silicon Valley. He was a managing director and the head of technology investing banking for the Western U.S. for Solomon Smith Barney. Then he became a senior partner at the Silicon Valley venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins. A few years ago, he was co-founder and executive chair of SharedX, a for-profit company that lifts smallholder farmer incomes and deploys regenerative farming techniques. SharedX has created an array of business and impact solutions along the three dimensions that define its impact farming system: agronomy, market access, and smallholder integration. The company has been named a top 100 global impact company by Real Leaders, a top 200 global impactful solution by the MacArthur Foundation, and a top 250 global game changer by GSV. Here is John with a challenge for all of us.
60 years ago, at 2 o'clock in the morning, on the steps of the Michigan Union and in the midst of a heated presidential race, Senator John F. Kennedy electrified thousands of U of M students with the idea of the Peace Corps without calling it by name. Within days, some students mobilized, and within 2 weeks, produced volunteer commitments signed by 800 of their classmates to do manual labor in emerging countries, to be named later. Word of the extraordinary events in Ann Arbor got back to Kennedy, and some of his aides believe it was the U of M students' harmony and exuberance that gave him the courage to launch the Peace Corps. In the midst of discord, there was unity. The 2030 vision I'd like to share with you is this: if we choose, the impact economy can help bring new meaning to the term the Roaring Twenties, so that at the end of this decade, it's also understood to be the extraordinary period when unity and community came roaring back. Many times in history, a breakdown was required to bring about a breakthrough, for chaos to rekindle community. Perhaps right now is such a time. For you students out there, do you want to be the great generation that reverses the tide, that fortifies community, the one that unifies? You get to decide. Is America allowed to have two greatest generations? There's only one way to find out. Opportunity knocks. 260 years ago, Adam Smith wrote about happiness and said the best path to it is to unite our best mind with our best heart. Is that even thinkable today? Definitely. You see, there's a great blending taking place right now, often hidden in plain sight, in which formerly disparate categories are coming together. Step back for a moment and consider, in the market, the merger of profit and purpose. In a career, the integration of job and fulfillment. And in colleges and universities near and far, all the interdisciplinary exploration underway. Allow me to begin with the first of these, profit and purpose, because it leads naturally into the second, job and fulfillment. The impact economy is the crucible forging into one, the drive of a for-profit with the heart of a nonprofit. In other words, it integrates the wealth of nations with the health of nations. We've already seen for-profit companies also generate social and environmental returns. And for the impact pioneers themselves, another form of return frequently materializes. A depth of personal fulfillment not on offer at a conventional company. In other words, just the sort of happiness Adam Smith taught. I'm a co-founder of a for-profit agriculture company, SharedX, that also lifts smallholder farmer incomes and deploys sustainable farming methods. I've been laboring away in the impact crucible for 5 years now and can report this to you from the frontier. It's been, far and away, the most rewarding professional experience of my life. What do you get if you align your daily work with your deepest values? You get something way better and longer lasting than following your passion. It's called joy, on some days at least. I have another impact frontier alert for you. There's a fascinating market phenomenon in which consumers, investors, and workers are driving companies hard towards impact. There's been a dramatic upshift of the demand curves for goods, capital, and labor, all demanding companies stand for something more than profit, that they also lift people and the planet. One example, the sustainable consumer products segment is growing 5 times faster than conventional. It's astonishing to me that the simultaneous nature of this triple upshift has gone largely unnoticed. Students, your generation holds the source code because your demand curves will determine the purpose of business and the products you support, as well as the jobs you take and the investments you make. And for all of you, the impact economy represents a golden opportunity for entrepreneurship and innovation. That's because at the moment, there's more impact capital than there are breakthrough impact ideas. That's a problem. However, the whole idea behind the impact economy is to convert problems into opportunities. On the impact frontier, bold innovators are combining financial and societal return so they self-reinforce rather than stand in opposition. And we're just getting started. The impact economy is also one of the greatest intergenerational collaboration opportunities the world has ever seen. Imagine what might be possible in 2030 if the younger generation's extraordinary talent and energy come together with the older generation's experience and networks right now. 10 years from now, in 2030, the restorative potential is beyond our present imagination. Bill Gates has noted we always overestimate the change possible in 2 years and underestimate the change likely in 10. That's because of the power of compounding. Albert Einstein called it the 8th wonder of the world. Imagine, somebody offers you a choice, $1 million now, or a magic penny that doubles in value every 30 days. Which would you choose? The magic penny, of course, because the 8th wonder of the world magically transforms it into $5 million in a mere 30 days. Finance professionals recognize the power of compounding. But now, so also do impact entrepreneurs, because they understand it applies as much to impact returns as it does to financial returns. The societal good created by an impact company can grow geometrically if it keeps steadily replicating every year. And we have no choice, because we stand little chance of bending the curves of the world's existential risks unless business becomes a bigger part of the solution. I would put community, climate, and computational power toward the top of my existential risk list. If business doesn't dig in harder, that means we're fighting with one arm tied behind our backs, because 60% of GDP won't be available to help. That's a clarion call for innovators the world over, and also for our leading and best universities. Post-pandemic, it's clear It's no longer business as usual in higher education. The good news is that every department on campus can become a part of the solution by combining their best head with their best heart, each in their own particular way. Every department should have a laboratory, whether or not based in science. Not all of them need test tubes, but they should all serve as petri dishes for impact experimentation. If not now, when? Universities that lead in impact innovation might also be rewarded in an unexpected way, financially. That's because there's a lot of impact capital looking for great impact ideas. Foundations, family offices, and others would be excited to see more groundbreaking ideas from college campuses, and maybe even fund some of them. You know, there's a certain freedom that impact entrepreneurs enjoy, the freedom to move at light speed. That's because they don't need a congressional act or a presidential decree to do good. They can make a decision tonight and begin to implement it tomorrow morning. And that means, collectively, we have the freedom to make an astonishing amount of progress between now and 2030 for greater unity and community. I have a rhetorical question for you. Why has our culture amplified Adam Smith's invisible hand, but neglected his teaching on happiness? Is it too late to resume a research project begun 260 years ago? You get to decide. For the economy, there's a crucial distinction between convention and tradition. Convention is the repetition of past practices, in many cases because that's the way we do things around here. On the other hand, the tradition of the American economy is each generation expresses innovation in its own unique way. Students, it's your turn. If you invent unity over the next decade, I predict you'll discover an awful lot of good along the way. I've been curious about what exactly candidate John Kennedy said on the steps of the Michigan Union early that morning, 60 years ago. I found an audio recording and listened. I could feel the students' extraordinary energy, none more so than when Kennedy closed with this. The University of Michigan doesn't exist, and I quote, merely to help its graduates have an economic advantage in the life struggle. There is certainly a greater purpose, and I'm sure you recognize it. Was John F. Kennedy right? Does your education have a greater purpose? And do you recognize it? You get to decide. Thank you very much.
So are you inspired and ready for the next 10 years? Have questions for these incredible people? Post them in the chat.